The crystal chandelier overhead caught the afternoon light, scattering diamonds across my mother's pristine white marble floors. I stood in the doorway of our family's estate, watching dust particles dance in the golden beams, and felt the familiar tightness in my chest, the one that always came when I was home. "Emma, darling, you're finally here." My mother's voice carried across the foyer, sweet as poisoned honey. She didn't look up from arranging white roses in a vase that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Your sister's been asking for you. She wants to discuss bridesmaid duties." Of course she did. The house smelled like it always did, expensive candles trying to mask something older, something rotting beneath the surface. Bergamot and lies. I set down my bag, a worn canvas thing I'd bought at a thrift store, and watched my mother's eyes flicker toward it with barely concealed disgust. "I'll go find her," I said quietly. "She's in the sunroom with your father. They're reviewing the seating chart." My mother finally met my eyes, her smile razor-thin. "Do try to be enthusiastic, Emma. This is a special time for our family. For Madison." Everything was always special for Madison. I found them exactly where my mother said they'd be, my sister sprawled across the cream linen sofa like a Renaissance painting of excess, her engagement ring catching light with every dramatic hand gesture. My father sat across from her in his leather armchair, the one no one else was allowed to use, nodding along to whatever she was saying. "The orchids need to be flown in from Thailand," Madison was explaining, her voice pitched high with self-importance. "Anything less would be embarrassing. You understand, Daddy, don't you?" "Of course, Princess. Whatever you want. Princess." The nickname made my stomach turn. I was 23 years old, and I couldn't remember the last time my father had called me anything but Emma, delivered with the same tone he used for discussing quarterly reports. "Hey," I said from the doorway. Madison's head snapped toward me, her perfectly highlighted hair swinging like something from a commercial. "Oh my God, Emma! Finally! I need you to try on your bridesmaid dress. The seamstress is coming tomorrow and we need to make sure the alterations are perfect. Not 'how are you' or 'I missed you.' Just demands, wrapped in exclamation points." I stepped into the room, feeling the weight of their attention settle on my shoulders. My father's eyes traveled over my appearance, jeans, a simple sweater, boots I'd resold twice because I couldn't afford new ones, and I watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "You know," he said, setting down his tablet, "your sister's wedding is black tie. I hope you're planning to dress appropriately." "It's in 3 months, Dad. I'm not wearing a gown to a dress fitting." "Don't be defensive." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "I'm simply reminding you that this family has a reputation to maintain. Madison's marrying into the Whitmore family. Do you understand what that means? Money marrying money. Power consolidating power. The same story that had played out in families like ours for generations." "I understand," I said softly. Madison rolled her eyes, already bored with the conversation. "Anyway, the dress is gorgeous. It's this beautiful champagne color, very elegant. And before you ask, yes, I'm paying for it. Consider it a gift. A gift that came with invisible strings, each one a tiny leash." "That's generous," I managed. "Well, we can't have you showing up in something off the rack." She laughed, the sound bright and cruel. "Oh, and Daddy wanted to talk to you about something." "Didn't you, Daddy?" My father's expression shifted into something harder. "Yes." "Emma, sit down." I remained standing. Some small rebellion I couldn't quite suppress. He sighed, the sound heavy with disappointment, his favorite weapon. "Your tuition bill came across my desk last week. $38,000 for the year." My throat went dry. Yes. We discussed this. I said I would pay for your education on the condition that you maintained your commitment to this family. He stood, walking to the window with his hands clasped behind his back, every inch the patriarch. Your attendance at your sister's wedding isn't optional, Emma. It's expected. Required, in fact. I never said I wasn't coming. No, but your mother mentioned you've been noncommittal about the bachelorette party, the bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner. He turned, his eyes cold. All events that require your presence. All events you've found excuses to avoid or shorten your attendance at. Because I was working 2 part-time jobs to afford textbooks and groceries, because his generous tuition coverage didn't extend to living expenses, because every minute spent in this house felt like drowning. I have school, I said. And work. Work. Madison snorted from her position on the couch. You mean that sad little coffee shop job? Emma, that's embarrassing. Just ask Daddy for money if you need it. I don't want to ask for money. No, you'd rather martyr yourself and make us all feel guilty. She examined her nails, diamond engagement ring glittering. It's exhausting, honestly. This whole struggling student act. My hands clenched at my sides. It's not an act, Madison. Girls. My father's voice cut through the tension. Emma, here's the situation. You will attend every wedding-related event. You will be present, enthusiastic, and supportive. You will not embarrass this family with your absence or your attitude. He paused, letting the words sink in. If you cannot commit to that, I'll need to reconsider my investment in your education. The room tilted slightly. You're blackmailing me. I'm establishing boundaries. I'm teaching you about priorities and family loyalty, lessons you clearly haven't learned. Madison's phone chimed. She glanced at it, smiled, and began typing furiously. Oh, this is perfect. Trevor's family wants to meet you all at the engagement party next month. They're very excited about merging our families. Merging. The word tasted bitter. Like these were corporations, not people. My father returned to his chair, the discussion apparently concluded in his mind. Emma, I need your answer. Will you commit to being present for your sister's wedding festivities, or should I contact the university's financial office? The chandelier overhead seemed to dim, or maybe that was just my vision blurring at the edges. $38,000. 2 years left until graduation. My degree in art history that my father called impractical but had agreed to fund anyway, probably because it kept me financially dependent. I'll be there, I whispered. Wonderful. Madison clapped her hands together. See? That wasn't so hard. Now, about the bachelorette party, we're thinking Paris. Just a quick 4-day trip. You can manage that, right? Paris. 4 days. Flights, hotels, meals, all in a city where my sister would hemorrhage money while I calculated the exchange rate on every coffee. I have midterms, Emma. My father's voice held a warning. I'll figure it out. I left the sunroom feeling like I'd swallowed glass. The house stretched around me, too big, too cold, too full of memories I wanted to forget. My childhood bedroom sat at the end of the east wing, preserved like a museum exhibit to a girl who'd stopped existing somewhere around age 12, when she'd realized her parents preferred the shinier, louder daughter. I pulled out my phone and texted the only person who felt real anymore. Can you pick me up? I need to leave. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, outside in 10. You okay? No. I wasn't sure when Daniel had become my lifeline. We'd met 6 months ago at the coffee shop where I worked. He'd come in every morning, ordered the same black coffee, left generous tips, and never made me feel small. He was a contractor, he'd told me. Restoration work on old buildings. His hands were always slightly rough, paint sometimes caught under his nails, and he wore flannel shirts that had seen real work. He was nothing like the men in my family's circle. He was kind. His truck pulled up exactly 10 minutes later, the engine's rumble somehow comforting. I slipped out the front door before anyone could stop me, before my mother could appear with another passive-aggressive comment about my clothes or my choices or my inability to be Madison. Daniel leaned across to open the passenger door. That bad? I climbed in, and the smell of sawdust and coffee wrapped around me like a blanket. Worse. He didn't push. Just pulled away from the estate, the mansion shrinking in the side mirror until it was nothing but white stone and empty windows. We drove in silence for a while, the city streets giving way to quieter neighborhoods, then to the park where we sometimes walked when I needed air. Want to talk about it? He asked finally, parking under an old oak tree. My father's threatening to cut my tuition if I don't perform like a good little daughter at my sister's wedding. Daniel's jaw tightened. He can't do that. He can, actually. He's paying for it. Which means he owns me. I laughed, the sound hollow. $38,000 a year buys a lot of obedience, apparently. Emma. And the worst part? I turned to face him, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. I'm going to do it. I'm going to smile and show up and play dress up because I don't have a choice. Because without that degree, I have nothing. No credentials, no prospects, nothing but a resume full of minimum wage jobs and a family that thinks I'm a disappointment. Daniel reached over and took my hand. His palm was warm, calloused, real. You're not a disappointment. You don't know that. I do. His thumb traced circles on my wrist. I know you work 2 jobs while taking a full course load. I know you volunteer at that youth center on Saturdays. I know you remember the regulars' orders and ask about their families. I know you're brilliant and kind and stronger than you think. The tears spilled over then. Hot and humiliating and impossible to stop. Daniel pulled me across the center console, awkward in the truck's cabin but somehow perfect. I buried my face in his shoulder and cried, for the girl I used to be, for the family I'd never have, for the cage made of money and expectations. I've got you, he murmured into my hair. I promise, I've got you. We stayed like that until the sun started setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Finally, I pulled back, wiping my eyes with my sleeve. Sorry. I'm a mess. You're human. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch gentle. Emma, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. Here it came, the moment when he'd realize I was too complicated, too damaged, too much trouble. Okay, I said quietly. He seemed to wrestle with something, his expression conflicted. Then he shook his head. Never mind. Not now. You've had enough for one day. Daniel, I promise I'll tell you. Just, not today. There was something in his eyes, something heavy and important, but I was too exhausted to push. Okay. He drove me back to my apartment, a studio near campus that I shared with too many boxes and not enough sunlight. Before I got out, he caught my hand again. Whatever happens with your family, he said, you're not alone. Remember that. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and climbed out into the cooling evening air. The next 3 months became a special kind of torture. Every week brought a new wedding event, each more extravagant than the last. The bridal shower featured a champagne fountain and gift bags that cost more than my monthly rent. The bachelorette party in Paris was exactly as excruciating as I'd feared, Madison and her friends drinking $17 cocktails while I nursed a single glass of wine and calculated how many shifts I'd need to pick up to cover the trip. Through it all, Daniel was there. Picking me up from the airport. Listening to me rant. Holding me when the anxiety got too sharp. But something was shifting between us too. Small things that didn't quite add up. The way he always paid for dinner without blinking. The expensive watch I'd glimpsed once before he'd pushed his sleeve down. The fact that his work truck was actually a limited edition model that cost more than my entire education. I didn't ask. Maybe I didn't want to know. The wedding dress fitting became a battlefield. Madison insisted I try on my bridesmaid dress in front of our mother, 2 aunts, and her 4 best friends. The champagne silk hung wrong on my frame, I'd lost weight from stress, and the dress gaped at the waist. Oh, Emma. My mother's voice dripped with manufactured concern. Have you been eating? You look positively gaunt. I've been busy. Busy. Aunt Caroline laughed, the sound sharp. That's what we're calling it now? Madison circled me like a predator. It's fine. The seamstress can take it in. Though Emma, you really should try to maintain a consistent size. It makes alterations so much easier. I stood on the platform, surrounded by mirrors that reflected infinite versions of myself, pale, tired, trapped. You know, Madison continued, pulling out her phone, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. Your boyfriend. David? Derek? Daniel. Right, Daniel. She smiled, and my stomach sank. I did some digging. Contractor, you said? That's interesting. Because I couldn't find any business license under his name. No website, no company registration, nothing. The room went silent except for the rustling of silk and the thundering of my heart. What are you implying? I asked carefully. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying it's odd. And honestly, Emma, we need to discuss whether he's an appropriate guest for the wedding. The Whitmores are very particular about their circles. My mother nodded thoughtfully. Madison has a point. We don't really know anything about this young man's background or family. He's my guest. That's all you need to know. Emma, don't be difficult. My mother's patience was wearing thin. We're simply concerned. You have a tendency to be naive. To trust the wrong people. Like who? I demanded. Give me one example. Well, there was that boyfriend in high school, who you hated because his father was a teacher instead of a CEO. That's unfair. My mother's voice went cold. We have always supported your choices, even when they've been questionable. Aunt Caroline chimed in, unable to resist. I saw him once, you know. You're Daniel. At that coffee shop downtown. Nice enough looking, but his clothes were very basic. And that truck he drives is none of your business, I finished. Madison held up her phone, screen facing me. Speaking of business, I found this interesting photo. From a charity gala 3 years ago. Doesn't this man look familiar? I stepped down from the platform, still wearing the champagne dress, and took her phone. The image showed a formal event, black ties and evening gowns. And there, partially obscured by other guests, was a man who looked strikingly like Daniel. Younger, clean-shaven, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost 5 figures. My hands started shaking. That's not, the caption identifies him as Daniel Ashford. As in Ashford Properties. As in the Ashford real estate empire. Madison's smile was victorious. Your humble contractor is heir to $1 billion company, Emma. Isn't that fascinating? The room spun. My mother gasped. Aunt Caroline's eyes went wide with something between shock and glee. He lied to you, Madison continued, her voice sticky with false sympathy. This whole time, he's been playing some kind of game. Slumming it with the charity case daughter. That's not, Emma. My mother's disappointment was palpable. How could you not know? How could you be so foolish? I tore off the dress, not caring that I was in my underwear in front of everyone, not caring about anything except getting out. I grabbed my clothes and ran to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. My phone was already filling with notifications. Madison had posted the photo to her Instagram story, tagged me, added commentary about family secrets and interesting discoveries. Within an hour, the family group chat was exploding. Cousin Jessica, wait, Emma's dating Daniel Ashford? How did we not know this? Uncle Robert, this explains a lot actually. Does Richard know? Aunt Caroline, we just found out at the dress fitting. Emma was completely blindsided. It's rather pathetic honestly. Madison, she had no idea who he was. Can you imagine? Dating a billionaire heir and thinking he's a regular contractor? Faced with tears of joy, my hands shook as I pulled on my jeans. My vision blurred with tears. The messages kept coming, a deluge of family members weighing in, judging, dissecting, enjoying the drama. Grandmother Patricia, this is highly inappropriate. Emma should have disclosed this relationship properly. It reflects poorly on all of us. Madison, honestly, I think he was using her. Why else would he hide his identity? This is going to be so awkward at the wedding. My father's message came through separately, just to me, we need to talk. Come to my office tomorrow. 9 a.m. I changed and slipped out the back entrance of the bridal shop, ignoring my mother calling after me. The afternoon sun felt too bright, the street too loud. I walked 6 blocks before I remembered I needed to call for a ride. Daniel answered on the first ring. Hey, I was just thinking about Emma. What's wrong? Come get me. My voice cracked. Please. Where are you? I gave him the intersection. He was there in 12 minutes, which should have been impossible given the traffic, but I was beyond calculating logistics. I climbed into his truck and showed him Madison's post without a word. Watched his face go pale, then carefully neutral. Emma, is it true? Silence. Daniel. Is it true? Yes. The word fell between us like a stone. But I can explain, you lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing. I was shaking now, fury and hurt twisting together. You let me think you were someone you're not. You watched me worry about money, watched me struggle, and you never said anything. Because I wanted you to see me. Just me. Not my last name or my family's money or any of that. His hands gripped the steering wheel. Emma, I've spent my entire life watching people change around me the second they learn who I am. They become different, calculating, interested in what I can give them instead of who I actually am. So you thought I'd what? Use you? Like my family uses me? No. I thought, he ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I thought you'd treat me differently. Everyone does. And I wanted to be with someone who liked me for me. Someone real. By being fake. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I was crying now, ugly sobs that hurt my chest. You had a choice. You could have told me the truth. But you didn't, and now my entire family thinks I'm an idiot. They're posting about it on social media, Daniel. They're making me into a joke. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. Take me home, I said quietly. Emma, please, take me home. The drive to my apartment was silent except for my muffled crying. When he pulled up outside, I got out without looking back. I'm sorry, he called after me. I slammed the door and didn't answer. My apartment felt especially small and depressing that night. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, watching my phone light up with message after message. The family group chat had evolved into full character assassination. Madison, I'm honestly worried about her judgment. First she dates him without knowing who he is, and now she's probably going to go back to him because of his money. Either way, it's embarrassing. Cousin Michael, anyone else think it's weird that he targeted specifically Emma? Like, what's his angle? Aunt Caroline, perhaps he likes vulnerable girls. Emma's always been rather easily influenced. I turned off my phone and cried into my pillow until I had nothing left. The meeting with my father the next morning was worse than I'd anticipated. He sat behind his massive desk, my mother perched on the leather couch to the side, both of them looking at me like I was a problem that needed solving. Emma, my father began, we need to discuss Daniel Ashford. There's nothing to discuss. On the contrary. There's quite a bit. He leaned forward, fingers steepled. First, I had my people do some research. Daniel Ashford is indeed the sole heir to Ashford Properties, a company worth approximately $2 billion. His father passed away 2 years ago, and he's been running the company since. My mother added, he's also been photographed at numerous high society events over the years. He's very well connected, Emma. Far more connected than our family, actually. I don't care, let me finish. My father's voice cut through my protest. What I find interesting is that he's been essentially hiding for the past year. Stepped back from public events, keeps a very low profile. And then he starts dating you, my daughter, from a prominent family, while pretending to be a contractor. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts and asking questions. What does he want from you? From us? Is this some kind of game? Is he trying to position himself to take advantage of our business connections? I laughed, the sound bitter. Dad, his company is worth 10 times what ours is. He doesn't need our connections. Then why the charade? My mother's voice was sharp. Why lie about who he is? Maybe because he knew people like you would react exactly like this. Making everything about money and status and what someone can do for you. My father's expression hardened. Watch your tone. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to control me. Like always. Emma. My mother stood, walking toward me with carefully practiced concern. We're worried about you. This relationship seems unbalanced. Unhealthy. He lied to you for months. That's not love, darling. That's manipulation. And what you're doing right now isn't manipulation. My father slammed his hand on the desk. Enough. Here's what's going to happen. You will attend Madison's wedding. You will not bring Daniel Ashford. And you will seriously reconsider this relationship, or I will reconsider funding your final year of school. The ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. You can't keep using money to control me, I whispered. I'm not controlling you. I'm guiding you. Teaching you. His voice softened, which was somehow worse. Emma, you're intelligent, but you're naive. You always have been. You need our guidance. I left his office feeling like I'd been hollowed out. The next week blurred together. I didn't answer Daniel's calls or texts. I went to class, went to work, went through the motions. Madison's wedding was in 3 weeks, and I had to endure the final dress fitting, the rehearsal dinner planning, the endless family discussions about seating charts and flower arrangements. Then my phone rang at 2 in the morning. An unknown number. Hello? Emma? It's Sarah. From the coffee shop. Sarah? What? Listen, there's a guy here who won't leave. He's been sitting in his car in the parking lot for the past 3 hours. He says he knows you. Daniel something? I'm worried about him. I was dressed and out the door in 5 minutes. Sarah was right, his truck sat in the empty parking lot, engine off, one interior light on. I knocked on the window. He startled, then saw me and opened the door. He looked terrible. Unshaven, exhausted, defeated. What are you doing here? I asked. I didn't know where else to go. His voice was rough. I can't show up at your apartment, your family hates me, and I needed to be somewhere you'd been. Despite everything, my heart cracked a little. Daniel. I'm sorry. He looked up at me, eyes red. I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I was selfish and cowardly, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I climbed into the passenger seat, pulling the door shut. Why didn't you tell me? Because the moment I did, everything would change. You'd look at me differently. You'd wonder if every nice thing I did was because I could afford it, not because I wanted to. You'd question whether I actually cared about you or if you were just entertainment. A project. That's not fair. You didn't give me a chance to prove otherwise. I know. He leaned his head back against the seat. My father spent his entire life surrounded by people who only cared about his money. He died alone, miserable, paranoid. And I swore I wouldn't end up like that. So when I met you, this brilliant, kind woman who treated me like a normal person, I wanted to hold on to that for as long as I could. But it wasn't real. It was real to me. Every moment. Every conversation. The only fake part was what I didn't tell you, not how I felt. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the city was still and dark. My family thinks you're using me, I said finally. I know. I saw Madison's posts. They've made me into a joke. The stupid daughter who dated a billionaire and didn't even know it. I'm sorry. His voice broke. Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to hurt you. I believed him. That was the worst part, I believed him. What happens now? I asked quietly. He turned to look at me, and something in his expression shifted. Hardened. What if we fight back? What? Your family. They've been controlling you with money, treating you like you're worthless, making you into a joke. What if we show them exactly how wrong they are? Daniel, I can't, Emma, listen to me. I have resources. I have lawyers, accountants, investigators. People who are very good at finding things that people want to stay hidden. He reached over and took my hand. Let me help you. Let me show you what I should have shown you from the beginning, that you don't have to be afraid of them. I don't understand. Your father's company. Your family's wealth. It's not as clean as they pretend it is. Trust me, I know how these old money families work. There are always secrets, always leverage. My heart started pounding. Are you saying? I'm saying let me look. Let my people look. And if we find something, when we find something, you can decide what to do with that information. You can finally have power instead of being powerless. It felt dangerous. Reckless. Everything I'd been raised not to do. Okay, I whispered. Daniel's team moved fast. Within a week, his corporate attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Chin, sat across from me in a downtown conference room with 3 file folders and a grimly satisfied expression. Your father's real estate holdings have some interesting irregularities, she began. Specifically regarding the properties he inherited from your grandfather 15 years ago. She opened the first folder, revealing spreadsheets and documents that meant nothing to me. The short version? He's been systematically undervaluing properties to avoid estate taxes, then selling them at market rate and pocketing the difference. It's tax fraud on a significant scale. We're talking millions of dollars over the past decade. My mouth went dry. The second issue, she continued, opening another folder, involves your trust fund. The one your grandfather established for you and your sister. I don't have a trust fund. You do. Or you did. It was supposed to be released to you when you turned 21. $250,000, just like Madison's. The room tilted. What? Your father convinced the estate executor, his cousin, conveniently, to keep yours in trust until you graduated college. Then he's been slowly liquidating it to cover his business expenses. He's essentially stolen your inheritance. I couldn't breathe. Patricia slid the third folder across. And finally, there's the matter of your mother's charity foundation. The one she runs for underprivileged youth. 65% of the donations never make it to any actual programs. The money's being funneled back into your parents' personal accounts through shell consulting fees. Stop, I whispered. Just stop. Daniel, who'd been sitting quietly beside me, touched my shoulder gently. Emma, they stole from me. They've been lying to everyone. All while making me feel like I was worthless, like I should be grateful for their scraps. Yes, Patricia said simply. That's exactly what they've been doing. The anger came then, white-hot and cleansing. What are my options? Patricia smiled. Several. We can go to the IRS, and your parents will face criminal charges. We can sue in civil court for your stolen trust fund. We can leak the charity information to the press and destroy your mother's social standing. Or, she paused meaningfully, we can use this information as leverage. For what? Whatever you want, Emma. Freedom, independence, justice. You're holding all the cards now. I thought about Madison's wedding, just 2 weeks away. I thought about years of being told I wasn't enough, of being controlled with money and guilt, of being made to feel invisible in my own family. I want to wait, I said finally. Until the wedding. I want them to have their perfect day, their perfect celebration. And then I want to burn it all down. Daniel squeezed my hand. Patricia nodded approvingly. That, she said, we can definitely do. The wedding day arrived sunny and perfect. The venue, a historic estate with manicured gardens and a view of the water, looked like something from a magazine. White flowers everywhere, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. I wore the champagne bridesmaid dress that had been altered to fit. I smiled in photos. I gave a toast at the rehearsal dinner that made my father nod approvingly. I played the role they'd written for me. Daniel didn't attend. I'd told him to stay away, that I needed to do this alone. The ceremony was beautiful in the way expensive things always are, lovely but cold, perfect but empty. Madison glowed in her custom gown. Her new husband, Trevor Whitmore, looked appropriately wealthy and bored. My parents beamed with satisfaction. At the reception, I found my father in a quiet corner, reviewing something on his phone. Always working, even during his daughter's wedding. "Dad," I said softly. "Can we talk?" He glanced up, surprised. "Of course, Emma. Everything all right?" "Actually, no." I pulled out my phone and showed him the first document Patricia had given me, the tax fraud evidence, simplified into a single devastating spreadsheet. "I need to show you something." His expression changed as he read. Confusion, then recognition, then fear. "Where did you get this? Does it matter? It's real, isn't it?" His jaw tightened. "Emma, this is a private family matter, it's a federal crime, actually. Tax evasion, fraud, theft." "Should I continue?" My mother appeared beside him, her social smile firmly in place. "Emma, darling, this isn't the time," I showed her the Charity Foundation documents. She went pale beneath her makeup. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady and cold. "You're going to release the remainder of my trust fund, all of it, immediately. You're going to have your lawyers draft a letter stating that my college tuition was a gift, not a loan, with no strings or conditions. And you're going to leave me alone. Emma, I'm not finished. You're also going to properly fund Mom's Charity Foundation going forward. Real funding, to real programs. I'll be watching. I have accountants now." My father's face had gone from pale to red. "You can't blackmail us." "I'm not blackmailing you. I'm setting boundaries. And if you don't like those boundaries, I can always send these documents to the IRS. Or the press. Madison's new in-laws would love that, don't you think?" My mother grabbed my arm. "Emma, please. Think about what you're doing." "I have." I pulled away gently. "For 3 months, you all made me feel worthless. You threatened my education, mocked my relationship, turned me into a family joke. You stole from me while convincing me I should be grateful for your generosity. We gave you everything, you gave me control disguised as love. But I'm done now. I'm done performing. I'm done shrinking myself to make you comfortable." Madison appeared, her veil askew from dancing. "What's going on? Why does everyone look so serious?" "Nothing, princess." My father's voice was tight. "Emma was just leaving." I agreed. "But before I go, congratulations, Madison. I hope your marriage is everything you've planned for." She blinked, confused by my sincerity. Thanks?" I walked away from them, through the reception hall with its glittering guests and expensive wine, past the ice sculpture and the live band, out into the summer evening. Daniel's truck waited at the end of the long driveway, right where he'd promised to be. I climbed in, kicked off the expensive heels, and finally breathed. "How'd it go?" he asked. "I think I just set myself free." He smiled and took my hand. "Where to?" "Anywhere. Everywhere. Nowhere." I leaned my head back and laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. "I don't know, and I don't care." "I know a place," he said, starting the engine. "A little town up the coast. Good coffee, quiet beaches, no one who cares about family names or money or any of that." "Sounds perfect." We drove away as the sun set, the estate shrinking in the mirror until it disappeared entirely. My phone buzzed with texts, my father, my mother, Madison, but I turned it off and rolled down the window, letting the wind tangle my carefully styled hair. "Thank you," I told Daniel, "for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." "Thank you," he replied, "for giving me a chance to be real." The coastal town he took me to was everything he'd promised: salt air and second-hand bookstores, coffee shops with mismatched chairs, streets where no one recognized us or cared who our families were. We stayed in a small inn with creaky floors and a view of the water, and for 3 days we were just Emma and Daniel. Not the ignored daughter. Not the billionaire heir. Just two people trying to figure out how to build something honest. On the third morning, my phone, which I'd finally turned back on, rang with an unknown number. "Emma Miller?" The voice was professional, crisp. "Yes? This is Robert Thompson, the executor of your grandfather's estate. Your father contacted me regarding the release of your trust fund. The paperwork will be ready for your signature next week." My hand shook slightly. "All of it?" "Every cent, plus accumulated interest." "I apologize for the delay, Ms. Miller. I should have been more vigilant." After I hung up, Daniel found me sitting on the porch, staring at the ocean. "You okay?" he asked. "I have my money back. My freedom." I looked up at him. "I can go back to school without their help. I can live my own life." "That's incredible, Emma. But there's something else." I took a breath. "The trust fund is $250,000. Your net worth is in the billions. We're still unequal." He sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. "Emma, I don't care about equal. I care about real. And this, us, is the most real thing I've ever had. But won't people always wonder? Won't they think I'm with you for, let them think whatever they want? I know the truth. You know the truth. That's all that matters." He was right, of course. The girl who'd stood in her parents' mansion 3 months ago, suffocating under the weight of their expectations, wouldn't have believed that. But I wasn't that girl anymore. "I want to finish school," I said. "And then maybe work in a museum. Somewhere small, where I can actually help people connect with art instead of just cataloging rich people's collections." "That sounds perfect. And I want to keep my apartment. Even if I don't need it financially anymore. Because it's mine." "Okay. And I want you to meet my roommate from sophomore year, and my favorite professor, and Sarah from the coffee shop, all the people who actually know me. Not the family version, but the real version." "I'd love that." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in and out, constant and cleansing. "What about your family?" Daniel asked finally. "Do you think you'll ever reconcile?" "Honestly? I don't know. Part of me hopes they'll realize what they lost and change. Part of me knows they probably won't. But either way, I'm done waiting for them to see me. I see myself now. That's enough." My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. "Mom said you blackmailed them." "That's messed up, Em." I typed back, "Check your trust fund statements. Ask Dad why yours was released at 21 and mine wasn't. Then we'll talk about what's messed up." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then nothing. "You know," Daniel said, pulling me close, "I've been thinking. Ashford Properties has been buying historic buildings to preserve them. Restoration work, converting them into community spaces. Museums, galleries, that kind of thing. Yeah. We could use someone with an art history degree. Someone who understands cultural value beyond profit margins. I turned to look at him. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. If you want it. No pressure, no obligations. Just think about it. That feels like it could get complicated. Probably. He grinned. But we're pretty good at complicated. I kissed him then, soft and certain, and thought about futures that weren't mapped out by anyone except me. Futures built on honesty instead of control, on chosen family instead of blood obligation. The wedding photos from Madison's perfect day would probably show me smiling in my champagne dress, playing my part one final time. But this, sitting on a porch with wind-tangled hair and bare feet, planning a life that belonged to me, this was the real celebration. I'd walked into that wedding as my father's daughter, my sister's shadow, the family disappointment. I'd walked out as myself. And myself, I was learning, was more than enough. The sun climbed higher, burning off the morning fog. Daniel's hand found mine, warm and solid and real. Somewhere back in the city, my family was probably dealing with the aftermath of my revelations, scrambling to cover their tracks and salvage their reputations. I couldn't bring myself to care. What are you thinking? Daniel asked. That for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I squeezed his hand. Thank you for being patient with me. For waiting while I figured this out. Emma, I'd wait forever. Let's not test that theory. I stood, pulling him up with me. Come on. I saw a bookstore in town yesterday. Let's go get lost in someone else's stories for a while. Best date idea I've heard all week. We walked back into town hand in hand, and I felt something I'd been missing for so long I'd forgotten its name, peace. Not the careful, walking on eggshells piece of my childhood home, but real peace. The kind that comes from finally being free. My phone buzzed one more time. My father, we need to discuss this situation. Call me. I turned off my phone again and tucked it away. Some situations didn't need discussion. Some needed endings. And this, the warm weight of Daniel's hand in mine, the salt air clearing my lungs, the endless possibility of a future I'd choose for myself, this was my beginning.